Okay. We have a few people in the house now, so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hi again, everybody. I'm Steve Carl. This is week 7 of our Sunday afternoon poetry reading series. It started once everyone had to start sheltering in place for COVID-19. This week we're going to go back to the year 1998. This was the year that I moved from San Francisco to Honolulu. So it's kind of a transition year. So the major piece I'm going to read today is a work called Pumice Vocal, although it's also called vocal pumice because I was never quite sure whether I liked it one way or the other. So it shows up both ways. This work came about probably as a result of an online discussion about the new formalism and whether poems should rhyme or not, or not necessarily whether poems should rhyme, but if there's stuff that you can do with poems, with rhyming poems. And probably at some point I thought, okay, so you want poems that rhyme, huh? And wanting to push that. How about if every word in the poem rhymes? How about that? And then thinking like, yeah, maybe I should try that and see what happens. And as I got into it, it quickly became apparent that if you were going to use end rhyme for everything, you couldn't really do that. So Pumice Vocal is a set of poems where all the poems use internal rhyme for every word in the poem. So, and this became the Subpoetics self-publisher parish submission in 1999. I talked about the Subpoetics list and the publisher parish project a little bit in one of the prior readings, but so after I finished these poems, I cut them up and printed them out and made a little cardstock cover and stapled it on there and just wrote on it. So you can see I used vocal pumice for this. And then I also added a subtitle, which was Total Rhyme Attack, because that's what it seemed like. So I'm going to start with that one, and I'm going to read some other stuff that I wrote in that year. A rhyming dictionary came in very handy for this work as well, and each poem is titled after just with the sound of the internal rhyme. So I probably don't even need to read the titles because it'll become obvious as I read the poem, but I like the titles. So settle bet, bent engine untenable, rev, sever, regret. Deadly Zenda's mending. Deadly Zenda's men meddled ever, blending venomous threats, malevolence, detestable investments, etc. A sever, Zenda's enemies gelled, friendships quelled, yes, penitence trembled, excellent. Then Zenda deadly resembled, yet bettered Dennis's menace. Whatever. Zenda pretended offense whenever sense offended Zenda's pretensions. Zen detention beckoned, then lemon correction. Cheese is creased. He leaks people. Geezer, please. Mean wheel, teensy TV, teens, freak Steve's spleen. Deke Weasel believed me. Really? Police greased wheels, freeing breeder deletion. evil media peed. Wee. Eel the wee hemodialysis reified. Me. Tee. See? Beatbox Caesar MC'd. Upon tonic's moniker, modest hypocrisy genres. Bottle rockets monitored chronic nonsense phenomena. Cotton stoppage probabilities. Dr. Juan's non-comment on Ebonics salon contest. Monstrosity cottage apodosis. Bother. Pompous modifier. Zot. Besot. Tommy rot. Idiot insinuation continues with its insistent, sinister, derivative, descriptive, continuous, maleficent, deliberate. Little sin picnics, nits in reciprocal picking, milk idiom ridiculed, altimeter squish fist, itty bitty ripcords fizzled in jitney flivers, rin tin tin, Jiminy Cricket, it's hit. I tried line drives, decidedly private, flights, Nile apprisement style guide, surprise heists like feisty nightlight dividers, provided Times advertisements. Why die inside? Supply ivy. Arising invites either site, inciting entire environs. Psyche, Nike, I'm tired by crikey. Righteous Simon mightily entwines 9 liars. Live, whining liars cry, Simon, 9! Like Simon's contrite. 9 liars tire while biding time binded, contrive enticements. 5 liar brides untie 9 conniving liars. I find Simon biting wire. Why, I might. Yikes. 9 liars lie whiting behind Simon's pipes, climb striking Simon's righteous heights. Nice. Aye. Flying Simon's kite wildly, spying Simon's wife, 5 sniping liars apply bites, incisor bites, right? Simon's wife retires crying. Simon, espying desirous liars, fires riotous firecrackers upside thy line. Cycling violence aside, I like Simon. A Saint Raymond, Germain saint attaining baleful drayage. Cake baking patron Saint Germain waved praise, maintaining aimed blame. 8 bay, baked Haitian bacon. Cranial derangement sales flailing, grainy gray they veiled attainment. Wail, Saint Manie, wail. Raise Cain's abatement grail. Painfully engaged sailor flails Hayes' brain container. Way. Table details, sprayed prayer plates, evasive rain separation. Break. Strange, erasural rain. A failure delay. A failure delay. Hay bales baled weight gracefully. Change acquaintance relations. Brave stamens raise elated gains availableness daily. Yay! Native changes relayed vaguely. Oh, don't know mocha boat, Olga, bro. Don't know mocha boat, holster row. Yo told Joe so, no? Moan tome, Mona's Bologna molds. Owned patrollers, hose protest proles. Croatoan, Roanoke. Mopey Baroque toking. Oh, solely approachable bowtie zone. Dope slope, Golder moment owned Mo Pope. Holy Roman dodo bones roll. Coldly emotional blowhard totals Toyota Corolla. Dolt road, low soda quotient. Oh, solo bolo, atrocious canola rollers. Tone dof, soul pony poem, no joke. Strolling bones troll boldness zones. Remote cold host, untoasted, unroasted. Folding goalpost floats toe ole Oakland. Bo knows those stoner donuts totally. During work, Perkins' burgeoning urges returned. First, disturbing urges nursed thirst curlings. Perkins' swirling urges unnerved persons returning earthward, working fervidly perky virgin girls, nervous alert, blurry swerving whirls, dirty lurid perversions, impure yearnings. Muriel, Perkins' intern, returned sure. Sorry, don't know where that came from. Muriel deterred Perkins' conservative circular urges inverted. Perkins' turnings, stirring assertive determination for purposeful rebirth. Ugh. Pole bulls putsch, good. Woodchucks could put wooden bullets footwards. Sooty hoof, put good foot to hood. Look, Cush's overlook, Brooks sandalwood childhood. Crook's outlook, Hollywood pussyfooting, shook woolly bosom, shush. Sooty ambush, fully pulled wool forsook Rook's pocketbook. Chinook mistook childhood livelihood, withstood cooked hotfoot. And that was that. The next set of poems were all written while watching films at the Honolulu International Film Festival in November of 1998. So the poems are titled after the films, and they incorporate some lines of dialogue from the films, sometimes altered and sometimes left as is, and my sort of off-the-cuff observations and things that occurred to me while I was watching the film. Usually related to the film in one way or another, but I can't guarantee it. So the first one is called Just Dancing. Hula goddess eludes the eyes of the heat, seen only as tide pool shadow, but for those moving without, inside's hard. We were never Polynesian before, just dancing now. Flower sticks to the boot which crushed it. In the navel of the sea, sunfire and moon tear, island by touching. The death of God stirs the life of men, birth a trick of spirit shown in a blackened platter. Tradi, supersti, Maya, an island formed out of fairy fire and world sorrow. Father fished before the shark took him from us, and was known by the watch he kept. Swept off through his posthumous moon detour. Let them go. Teach me how. Genere, celebrate. My rice noodle shop. Stammer when stirred, baby, here comes the mayor from Halftown, holding into exile over straits of erasure. It's useless for us to cry terribly, though this messy hell ain't home. Memorial dissonance and the transfer of trauma to an emotional thermostat in Taipei. Human skin too fragile to bear the past across the bridge. Dance me to my song. Speech severed, say, ing, I am Julia, making meager, mute words in the face of, I too am. More precious the long night struggle, from the wheel, a risen word, I'm Julia. The sound of one hand clapping. The child's first communion is with sorrow, a teapot let shatter on a rock. The sound of the dead, judged by their lingering effect on the living. The pigs run back into the flames. The body will be showered with fragrant petals. Later, a hole will be burned in its image. Love is a bridge. The fetus, seen in ultrasound, will kick the shit out of you later. Tasmanian cloud cradle lofting each new birth. Windhorse. The riot of Himalayan confetti. One people's search for authenticity conducted through another people the former has invaded and enslaved. Occupied, as though it were simply a matter of keeping them busy with TV and karaoke, liquor and prisons, of formally inscribing one's own otherness on them and keeping it pacified. Mass culture, the extension of war by other means, a battle over who will determine form. The revolution of prayer wheels, turning 40. We saw a lot of films at the film festival that year. And then there's two more in that sequence. They're not actually film festival films, but there are two other movies that I saw around the same time I was in that mode of writing about the films while I was watching them. So next to last one is called Elizabeth. The arrest of adolescents for being incorrectly worshipful, foreshortened by Bloody Mary's most Catholic, sisterly staying of hands. The house will divide, remember who you are and be not afraid. The theme of the sovereign enslaved by her state. If they are her subjects, she must be their object. Dance a leaper, crush rebellion, reapply her virginity as it was before she was spirited from Mary's wise men. Define marriage as between queen and country. And finally, destiny. The drum, the cross, and the flame. Flatter him until he bursts. We defy life with song, an army of barbarian prophets. Deliverance like a package of God. Can you regain dignity by stabbing a poet? A dream blossoms in the desert. The incoherence of incoherence. And then these last set of poems are just not any particular theme or grouping. These are just individual poems, also written in or around 1998. Chancing on the Blue Hat Tour. Quilled vine, the temp workers own no serpents. I taunt fate's patience, qua jammy jubilee. Cranial soufflés of the skies are parties, and the swift insane obscures my veins. Quelled vein, the time don't know you're praying. Tell the prairie to double deliveries, grandly and florally, aboard and ferocious of sales flies. Quail victory, the timely donut impresses. She walks in beauty like the night, 'cause the night has 1,000 eyes on the prize, to keep you apprised of my work as a whole, into which words are worth wandering, lonely as a cloud of mushrooms, ruminating over spilled milk of magnetism, animal and Olympic, like the Herculean feet on which she walks like the air of night. This is another imaginary translation. It's also from a poem of Rimbaud, which was originally called Alchimie du Verbe. Ordinarily, that would be translated as alchemy of words. But this is my imaginary translation. All Chimey from Verbs. Ah, me. This is the hissing wire of one man's folly. For a long time, I was vaunted to possess each possible passage, and I treasured celebrities' derision in the painting of all modern poetries. How those idiot painters jammed, Jess deported, his decor, his salt and pepper toils, his insignias, the popular Enlightenment, demoted literature, Anglo-Latin, erotic livers without orthography, Aeolian Romans, fee counters, petty deliverers of children, opera viewers with knee-high refrains and naive rhythms. I reviewed crescendos, voyages of discovery unsalted by relations, ahistorical republics, wars stuffed with religion, revolutions of morale, the displacement of races and continents. I crested all enchantments. I invented the cooler of vowels, A, film noir, E, Sauvignon Blanc, I, lip rouge, O, blue cheese, U, vertebrates. I regulated the form and movement of soup checks, and with instinctive rhythms, I flattened myself by inventing an accessible poetic verb, first one day and then another. It's essentially an incense. I've reserved this translation. There's a study afoot, or there's a foot in the study. I write loudly of silences and daily of nights. I mime the ineffable. I've fixed the vertiginous. Cowslips. The monks broke their long celibacy, leaking the seminal texts of their order. The completed recourse gets coarser by dug-in enthymemes. Arrested contemporary decor infuriates the impractical racer. An imbroglio of the attempted eye introduced. Placement listing to comma site. Apex loner emptied locus. I cribbed an Essene slalom down transfigurationist parallels. Would you French kiss an amorous golem if you could save the world by teasing out the fate-filled paperslip? I am an inaugurated calend, cobalt blue posture of the scrubbed pearl. In a labyrinth of bells, decades could time a rotating collaboration between gestures. Braided collision lattice or monastic calibrates, the invented civic retrofit. Telemarketing finesse suggests apparent techno ideologies, facing ratcheted hamster fallacies with tontine agrarian pantomime. Intervene righteously, think, or thwim. Blastula calibration earmarked for wetland apartment. Grin and parrot back, the man to the man. The way in is not the way out. The dogged cattiness with which she aped the mouse. Telemetry thrill panders to cracked quotidian fantasia. In the rhetoric of authentication, it's a backstage pass. Pardon my grass-stained teleology. Orange blessings from an organic pope, setting a trend in reverse. An attempted unraveling. The dark sleeve of patrician vulnerability. Tear me a new hierarchy, unless that's too easy. Joe pronounces evolution like evil. The intrusive palm trees bollocks future critics. Legislation intended to protect worker health is instead used to quell social dissent. It seems to be funny to mention spiritual things and then TV. So what else can be made new that stays nude? Be true to your skew. Throw a full moon at my head when I ain't looking. Soul practitioner, bump and grind, canopy master. I still don't know what capers are, but I don't like their looks. The Taj Mahal of wallpaper. Gaseous delay, disgustipating. This lives as response to raw matter, a troubling assertion. Grounded in an academic politics, and therefore dead-ended. Masculine stranded, Andra. As standard bearer, ants in the pants, arts in the parts. Guess against this gist. The condensation, a writing so condensed it's dewy defeats true men, could never live up to its press. Detaining a thread of perception on its way to sleep and freezing it in writing, I stutter start an adapted tongue fitted for me and you, S or P. The petulant daisies fold to tune out the clouds, petals bordering the neighborly air, bird-like, bear me in and put me there, body incurring itself. Bring the sky nearer me that I may see its outline and fashion a hinge on which to hang its elegance. Sing to me of already accomplished loves. I am injured, still awake. Hold me into the daylight. This is from a series of linked, I want to say haiku, but they're not technically haiku. They're inspired by haiku, but they don't carry the formal structure of a haiku, the 5-7-5 syllable count. And for probably a year and a half, from 1996 sometime to yeah, December of 1996 until July of 1998. I was writing these via email with two other poets. And I'm embarrassed to say that after 23 years, I can't remember which two poets it was that I wrote this with. I think one of them may have been Susan Schultz, but I'm not 100% sure, and I can't remember who the other person was at all. But I'm only going to read my entries into this haiku chain. Approximate drain for rain's disappearance down, renewed. Trip too imminent amid falling hair. Think I was girl? The leaves are green knives, slicing the winter window panes apart. 5 anti-meridian, sleep keeps away. A poetics of insomnia. Saint Cradle Arms, finding the words, respecter of persons. Over the city, moons rise, webbed by cherry blossoms and phone wires. In our ma's shadow, girl driving a flower truck, Resurrection Day rain. Heart's core, sat on a dream bull, major fifths of recognition. Rinse me a plant, clinging to our ma. I'll take in the vegetable kingdom. The fall's sudden air chill and rain glowing sky beckon El Bad Boy. Sound curves through sandalwood smoke, I draw breath. Bare branches on Dolores Street, thin as smoke, smudge the skyline. Same moon as ever, a soul bird solos from its tree in the park. Morning phone jitters, the early stones. What can I box up? That was while I was packing to move to Honolulu. I eat the creek. With the creek eaten, I slept neither soundly nor silently, but babbled your names in the night. It was I who sedimented the bed, mother of pearl. The morning made me a waterfall, water winter, and water much of spring even. This is a poetic essay called Song Singularities. I wrote this one line per day. I only allowed myself to write one line per day so that I would have a long time to mull over each line before I wrote it down. That way I wouldn't have to do any editing when I was done. It starts with an epigraph from Heidegger. The song is hard because the singing may no longer be a solicitation, but must be existence. Thinking is incomplete until it sings. Song completes the circuit opened by thinking. In song, the abstract is re-embodied in the act of singing without necessarily losing its quality of abstraction, the immediate byproduct of thinking. To sing what one thinks requires one to be fully in and of the moment, each moment. Song is the flux of thinking, its organic instability. Thinking is the establishment of song, its entry into historicity. Music is the utter meditation on time. Crossed out. Music is utter meditation on time. The original Western musical scale proceeded by descending because singing was thought to be the coming down of spirit into flesh. Born into a world, storing a song. That these two disparate entities, song and thought, can do without each other, we have lifetimes of empirical alienation to attest. Of their mutual attraction, only the unquantified lyrics of a few mystics. But it is their shared territory, that of the human voice, that speaks most eloquently of their affinity. The singing figure of the siren condenses both the allure of the ocean's transcendent embrace and the repulsiveness of death's terrifying certainty, and the durable power of the myth suggests the depth of mistrust we have in our ability to distinguish one from the other. Singing is design. For a god, that's lights. The soul of mankind dares fall through the small lyre. Among the many provocative possibilities of a thought music, we could place echo, reverberation, harmonics. That these are all forms of distortion is noteworthy. Imagine a thinker so sublime that she or he or they imagine a thinking duet or a meditation orchestra could give voice to thoughts that dance in speech gracefully as ballerinas, the sound of whose bodies in movement inspires us to move in an inner harmony with them. Or imagine yourself just out walking, suddenly so alienated from your experience that all memory of your, even of having an, identity has slipped away without leaving a trace. Would a haunting melody then reflect a trace? And then looks like 4 short last poems. Awash in costly bouts of conscience, busy businesser towels dry 1,000 acres of wetland, a KO punch. The Wabash bowling green ball splits labor and environmental listservs. Ash is what's left with the water beaten out. How to. 1. How to funnel a rant at the highly sexed neighbors upstairs loud at 4 a.m. Is the right to sleep a bourgeois hang-up? Anger certainly no sedative. Try kava kava. 2. Snoring neighbors bring their sleep to a point of exhaustion. I lie awake down here without desire except not to go mad, waiting for sleep. A caution against late dining. Clouds fade. Clouds fade in the sky, unwelded to unending changes shackles. Who is writing this? Who indeed is reading? And finally, discursive mind. Discursive mind is home and hip to the 84,000 Buddha gimmicks, yet it can't shut up a minute and let me not think. Thank you. So I just wanted to note a few of these poems were published in different journals. Owl from Pumice Vocal was in Tinfish #8. Cowslips was in The End Review #1. The Hat #2 published I Eat the Creek and Discursive Mind, and Song Singularities was in a journal called Rebo #7. So shout out to the editors of those journals. And then Dan's question this week stayed at the top, so I didn't forget to answer it. The question is, you don't read your pieces as much as you perform them, which seems to be the optimal approach for any number of them. Do you feel the work loses anything or perhaps isn't as effective when merely read silently off the printed page in the conventional manner by your audience? This actually kind of goes to a piece that I'm just found I'm having published in Roots and Routes, the New College Criticism Journal. I posted about it on Facebook earlier today. I think of poetry as having 3 dimensions: a sound dimension, a visual dimension, and a dimension of meaning or sense. And all 3 of those dimensions are present in the poem, whether you're reading it off the page or whether you're hearing a poet or somebody reading the poems out loud. But they do, when you move it in from one realm to the other, it does change the nature of those dimensions. So if you're reading the poem off the page, you're getting the visual dimension first. When you're seeing the way the poem is spaced on the page, but you're probably hearing a voice in your head reading the poem as you read it out. So there is that sonic quality to it. And of course, where the words are situated on the page affects how you hear them in your head. If there's a big space between 2 words, your mind is going to tend to pause in your verbalization of the word, and that also affects what the poem means with or without that pause. When I read them out loud, I tend to read them as I hear them in my head. So that'll be different from the way a reader would hear them in their head when they hear them, but when they read them on the page. But I wouldn't necessarily say that they're not as effective or that they lose anything. But they would be different, and so that's what it's about. It's supposed to be an alchemy that takes place in the head of the reader anyway. So whether they're hearing me read it or whether they're reading it off the page, those are equally valid, and they're different, but they're equally interesting. And when I write poems, I try to be conscious of all 3 of those dimensions and try to kind of maximize the impact of the work in all 3 of them. So I hope that answers the question. And let's see, any other questions? I'm actually going to try scrolling this week, but it doesn't look like there's anything below that for real this week. Yeah, if you're interested in having copies of any of this work, hit me up in Facebook message. And I'm going to post this on YouTube later, so it'll be up on YouTube. And I imagine we'll be back here next week, unless suddenly all the governors of the states lose their minds and just let us all outdoors. So in which case we could all be dead by next week. No, hopefully we won't all be dead. So thank you very much, and take care of yourselves. And happy Mother's Day. Bye, everybody.